My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Yo! I still feel like we should get another version of that friend of the show thing for the ATP Weekly at some point, Just more men. We need more men on the screen. John, you feminist pig. But anyway, what am I trying to say? Yes, today, of course, with Vansh, we are going to talk mostly about the US Open and the draw and everything. You have some sort of like tidbits in the title already that will kind of suggest you where we'll be going with this. But for now, we also need to mention the Winston-Salem event. And since I did not watch the final, Vansh, kind of take it away and tell us how the hell Lorenzo Sonego beat Alex Mikkelsen at the loss of just 3 games.
Well, I mean, this was kind of an all-time performance from Sonego. He basically comes into the final, had drop serve just once, rolled through David Goffin. And I was thinking coming into this match, it's going to be tight. Mikkelsen is going to really challenge him. He's going to, serve better, and he's going to they're going to have some really good baseline rallies. And Sonego is going to be attacking for sure, but Mikkelsen is going to hold his own in rallies. He's going to defend well. Well, none of that happened. Sonego was like, I'm just going to throw in the first punch that I can get, and I'm going to go after my forehand. And I'm just gonna come out of the gates just flying. And that's what he did. His forehand shot quality was like 9.8, which is crazy, because his average for the season was a 5.9 and the tour average is 7.6. And here he is at
average for the season was a 5.9.
And that tells you how his season has been going so far. I mean, he basically
Matthew, the tour average isn't 6. It's apparently just Sonego's tour average. Holy hell!
Yeah, so he was averaging 5.9.
That's horrible.
Which is really bad, right? And the tour average is 7.6. And in this first set, he was at a 9.8, which is just it's just insane stuff. I just, Mikkelsen was just given no chance to really work his way into the rallies. Of course, everybody saw that famous point on Twitter where he's, going for the half volley on the break point, and then he loses it, and he whacks the ball into the crowd, and should have been a default, in my opinion. But he was, I think he was quite fortunate that the lady was like, no harm done. Oh, good, you can keep playing. But it really shouldn't be like that. But I guess because it was a final, there were just 3 or 4 games into it. They didn't want to go with the default. So
I mean, that's the rules, right? Like in the rules, the outcome is the most important, not the intention, which is maybe stupid. But like with the rules that we have right now, I guess the lady saying nothing happened, it's fine. That's kind of where we draw the line.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously it's you can't look at a case like that and it shouldn't be dependent on how the crowd is, what the crowd reaction is, or what the person who got hit, how they react is. It should just be very consistent, black and white. But what happens if this is like the first game of the final and you're like 3 points in? It's a huge shame for the whole crowd, everybody. But it's got to be consistency.
Yeah, but I mean, with the rules that we have right now, it's just not a default. So kind of like saying that this should have been a default is like just wanting that the rule would be changed instead of live. But anyway, yeah, it's still not. Of course, it's something to talk about, but it's still not the biggest story there. Poor Alex got very emotional, says MA. Matthew also felt very bad for him. 3 finals now lost by Alex. 3 on home soil as well. 1 he had a championship point at against Giron in Newport, which if memory serves right, it was an ace from Marcos. So yeah, is there any like mental block going to be building up there for Alex? I mean, this was a great chance to get a first ATP title just before his 20th birthday. but he's still very much on the right trajectory. So I guess it's not the end of the world either. And also Sonego, as Matthew is pointing out, he actually has a title on clay, grass, outdoor hard courts, and indoor hard courts now, which I think makes him the 11th or 12th active player right now. 12th, yeah.
Shout out to Richard Gasquet, who's the only one who has one on carpet as well. But of course, a lot of these guys have never played on carpet. But
how about green clay and red clay? Because I think on the Challenger Tour right now, we only have Zizou Bergs and Frances Tiafoe with titles on grass, hard courts, green clay, and red clay. And if we want to include carpet, then I think it would be like Berankis and Brown maybe that have it all only. Unless we if you even want to count Dustin Brown as active. But anyway, yeah, that's neither here nor there. Alex Mikkelsen, 3 lost finals at home. Anything to worry about?
I don't think so. I mean, he's inside the top 50 also for the first time. He's the youngest in the top 50. So his trajectory is still very much upward. And it's not like he really had a shot in this final. Like in Newport, he had the championship point. Before that, he had a couple of tight sets. So I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. He will probably get one at some point.
Yeah, just 20, so definitely there's time. And about Tiafoe having a title on red clay, I mean, he doesn't have one on red clay. Well, depends on how we want to count Houston, but on the ATP Tour, there's no green clay event per se, so I guess we have to count it. And I was talking about the Challenger stat, where like both he and Zizou Bergs are the guys who have both red clay and green clay titles. And in that case, yes, he does have 2 red clay titles on the Challenger Tour. Something in France and Parma, I think. But yeah, anything else to talk about from Winston-Salem just before we jump to, of course, the main topic of today's? I guess Lerner Tien's run was kind of stunning, and well, that's something that you are definitely prepared to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, Lerner Tien, of course, you were watching probably a lot of those matches on the 28 match win streak that he had, right, at ITF level plus Challenger level, but on the main tour, I mean, yeah, for him to get wins over like Fabian Marozsan was pretty big, to get that first top 50 win, and then even in the quarterfinal against Carreno Busta. I know maybe the score doesn't really show it, like 6-4, 6-2, but the 6-2 set was an absolute grind. So it's like a really, really good week. Like he would have been like, I think, the youngest semifinalist at ATP level in like 2 years.
Wow.
But I don't think
Alcaraz is really ruining a lot of these stats, by the way.
Alcaraz is ruining everything. That's what I was saying.
I thought you were going to say like 20 years, and I was just going to be like,
I was thinking about it, and then I realized, oh wait, Alcaraz, and then I was like, oh, never mind.
Alcaraz is ruining a lot of these stats, yeah.
But
and Lerner is a Cali boy, right? I mean, he is originally from California as well, right? Okay, that's to Ghosty's question.
Yeah, he lives like an hour north of San Diego, so Southern Cal, yeah. I mean, I always knew he had serious potential. He was going to be a top 100 player, but it's happening even quicker than I thought. So the rise has been really good this year. Of course, he's also been to 2 junior Grand Slam finals, right? But lost both of them last year.
Yeah. To Fonseca and to Blocks. Both also amazing talents. And yeah, when he played Fabi, he was just like, he loved it, He just someone throwing everything he has at him, just trying to blast him off the court. That's where Lerner kind of excels, especially when it's not like just strong, sustained power, but, someone like Fabi, timing and just trying to end the point in 3-4 shots. He really loved the matchup like this. I'd say a veteran like Carreno Busta, though, kind of knew how to handle him. And speaking of Carreno Busta, there's a lot of talk about him in the chat. Matthew asking how is he doing at the moment, and also how serious is the PCB injury. I actually watched the semi against Mikkelsen. Honestly, I don't know what exactly was wrong with Carreno Busta, but well, during the North American hardcourt swing, I think he's been showing us that he can return to the top of the sport. I don't know about the top 10, but just to the top level. He's finally getting something going. He took like a slower July and really. After saving match points against also Fabian Marozsan, coincidentally, he's been on fire. He won Winston-Salem in the past. Once again, did very well on these courts. I think something that I really like about these comebacks is that like players like Carreno Busta, when he was at the very top, you kind of just think of him as a consistent guy who, like, maybe doesn't have any amazing weapons, but well, he's just going to be out there grinding and working his ass off. And then when they come back, you actually see that, the fundament of this sort of is the amazing ball striking as well. And the semis, I honestly don't know. I think that after he lost that first set, he was a little down fatigue-wise for sure. I don't think it's serious.
Yeah, it
But
didn't
we'll
look
see.
very serious to me. Like he had a bit of a stomach problem, but it seemed like something he could recover for by the U.S. Open. It seemed also more precautionary. Like once he lost that first set, went down a break, he probably just didn't want to risk anything. But yeah, overall, I agree with you. I also watched him beat Korda in Cincinnati and play really close against Zverev. So I was like, okay, he's going to be back. He's 33, I think. So he's the same age as like Dimitrov. And, if he stays healthy, like I see no reason why he can't be back in the top 50 very, very quickly, actually. Like he's already playing at that level, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This round only proves it. And he's facing Artur Cazaux in the first round at the US Open, where he'll be the favorite. Also, Nurlan, I do not understand your question. What are you referring to? You as in me, or you as in somebody like a tennis player? I'm sorry. I have to ask you to rephrase that. But otherwise, I think we pretty much have it all from Winston-Salem. As usual, a pretty fun event, but also kind of irrelevant for the US Open. It is what it is.
I felt like interest was just very low. It always is just super low for Winston-Salem. Unfortunately, it just gets the raw end of the stick.
Kind of does.
I mean,
Although
Carlos Alcaraz played it in 2021, but I don't know. I don't even think that year they had that much.
that was the Emer Rusevori Ivashka semifinal year, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Vash hasn't said
unfortunately.
anything about Brandon Nakashima yet, but I think he
Oh,
will.
we will get to him. We will get to him. Yes, he's playing a very big
Will
match
during
tomorrow.
the stream, yeah.
We should also
alright,
say
yeah.
Gunnar is playing Arthur Fils. That match will be on Tuesday, so that'll also be that's definitely one to watch.
Any other Kali boys? I guess Zakaris Faida.
Oh yeah, I mean he also picked up a good win in Winston-Salem, right? He beat Fran Cerundolo.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah,
Come
I don't
on.
know. You know Cerundolo.
really
But
should have broken the top 100, and now it's gonna be a race. I mean, it's a race before he starts dropping these free challenger titles, but really should have broken it against Mr. Pavel Kotov in the
yeah.
third round. And yes, Gene Cerundolo is a mess. I was actually thinking about this in regards to his match with Offner, because Offner hasn't played since the Olympics. And I was wondering, is it better not to play between the Olympics and the US Open? Or is it better to play two matches like Cerundolo and just embarrass yourself twice? I don't know. It's a question, Maybe Cerundolo would have been better off just staying at home and practicing than playing like this against Faida and Hachanov. But of course, he's a player who can fire up at any time, so it's not really a question of quality. It's just what he does. Anyway, let's talk about that US Open draw. I don't know what our strategy about this is. I mean, we could as well just go, top to bottom. We could talk about the favorites first and then kind of like dark horse contenders and stuff. I really don't know. Let's just start talking about Yannick Sinner, because regardless of sort of which strategy we're choosing, we're definitely going to start talking about Yannick Sinner. And I guess, well, there are some burning questions regarding his mental preparation because of what came out the last few days. There are also burning questions regarding his physicality, which is still not 100%. But I guess what I'll start with is that first question of, is there any chance, is there like any possible opponent that Yannick Sinner could lose to before the quarterfinals? Is there someone who could possibly stop him? And let me remind you that Yannick Sinner still has not lost before the quarterfinals at any event in 2024.
I'm trying really, no matter how much I try to find a player like that who can really be a kryptonite for him before the quarters, I'm not really seeing it. I actually don't even think Tommy Paul is that guy who he would play in the fourth round. Before this came out, before the qualifiers came out, I thought maybe there'd be a qualifier or two that could give him a really hard time in in the second round, maybe like a Medvedev or somebody like that. But there isn't even anybody like that in the.
I mean, he's got
in the top.
Bellucci in the third. Like, isn't Bellucci tougher than Medvedev at the moment?
Probably, but Bellucci has to beat. Yeah, he has to beat Stan. He has to beat Nicholas Jarry. Like, hasn't won a match since Rome. Is that right?
I think so. If he's won one, then just one. But I don't think he's won one.
Yeah. Maybe Alex Mickelson in the second round can give him a good test, because he did play him very well in Cincinnati. But like, you're looking at the most maybe best case, he gets a set. But to actually beat him before the quarters seems difficult to imagine. Even if you consider he could have some physical issues, he could have, some of those questions from the case like still lingering in his mind, maybe the toe. But honestly, like, getting all the questions and everything out of the way this week should also help him, right? In many ways, he was saying that he's pretty relieved, and he gave quite a good press conference, and he also spoke to ESPN today, and he kind of cleared the air, like, for the most part already. I mean, sure, there'll still be some more questions, but I think once the tennis actually gets going, I don't think that's going to play as much of a factor as people realize. I think maybe the physical component of best of 5 will probably play more of a factor, but is that really going to even come into play until the quarters, semis, final? Probably not, right? So my answer would probably be no one.
Ghosty Jarry last year at the US Open made the third round, defeated Alex Michelsen and Luka Van Asch, and then lost to Alex de Minaur, actually winning just 6 games in that match.
Yeah. I do actually think Bellucci will be his third round opponent. I don't actually think I don't think it'll be Jarry. I think Bellucci.
I think Bellucci is the favorite. I think Bellucci is the favorite to make the third round. This is probably the best qualifier, and this is probably the best draw for a qualifier that you could get, really. So I think it's a nice combination. Well, yeah, I mean, after all the hype, apparently he's a must-watch. I've definitely done my share. I've done my share even when he was losing, literally the entire first half of the year. But well, he's really leaped at the moment, and hopefully this will be enough to break the top 100 as well. I mean, even if he wins one match, I think it will be, as long as, if he didn't choke that final in Kerry to Safiullin, then we would have been talking about like a huge win streak by now, and probably a huge win streak without dropping a set as well. But he handled his business in the qualifying, and this draw looks really good for him. I think the qualifier sort of argument that you mentioned about Medvedev and stuff, like, I don't think it really works for me, because probably Bellucci is the best qualifier right now.
Yeah, I've forgotten about Bellucci in his section. So you're right. Bellucci is tougher than Medvedev right now for sure.
But I don't think he can beat Sinner, really. Like, don't get me wrong. It would be phenomenal if Mattia just pushed Yannick, and if we got a match there. I don't know. I'm just not that much of a believer, and I kind of am on the same page. Like, even if Yannick is going to be a little, I don't know, just maybe not in the right mindset or something, maybe the hip again starts bothering him like it did against Zverev as well. I just still don't think that anyone feasibly can defeat him ahead of the quarterfinals. Maybe Tommy Paul if it becomes like a long match. I'm honestly not sure Tommy even gets there. Like, he has a lot of threats in his section. He just lost to a couple of, let's say, similar.
Sonego round 1 is already tough.
Sonego, I guess. I mean, Sonego just delivered an all-time performance, apparently. So.
Yeah, but best of 3, doing it like 2 days after winning a title it's
2 days.
I definitely think it's okay.
3 days, right? It's 3 days. Yeah. It's
right,
important. It's important. And I also say what you mentioned about the Yannick's press conference. I think he's handling the stuff well, sort of regardless of what you think about the whole debate and basically the whole case. He's handling the stuff well, seemingly. That press conference that they did with him, and the moderator is like, yeah, okay, so no questions on the topic. He's already given his statement, and then Yannick is like no comment on that, and just keeps answering, right? And keeps answering a lot of kind of similarly themed questions. So I think that heading to that room, he kind of knew what he was gonna do, and he ends up looking good in that conference, I think.
So.
But yeah, otherwise, I kind of will have to pull up the draw for myself as well, as I don't remember who's in that Tommy Paul section, but is it that Fields one maybe as well?
Fils and Tian, yeah, Fils, Tian.
Yeah, Fils,
Djokovic,
Diallo. So
Busta.
there's a lot of good contenders for the Tommy Paul sort of fourth round, third round as well. So I think Sinner
actually,
is
now I'm thinking
really
about it, even more than Paul. What if you get a really good version of Arthur Fils? Maybe he catches fire, and then you have Fils against Sinner. I don't know, because we haven't seen that matchup yet.
He wouldn't beat him though. Like he literally wouldn't.
Well,
He's
I don't think
not
anybody
ready.
in this section would, but I'm just saying from
you're right.
more from an entertainment perspective, would that be more fun than Paul versus Sinner? Might be.
The entertainment perspective could end when Sinner wins this 6-3, 6-3, 6-3, you know? And I think that's the more probable scoreline. I think Tommy would play Yannick the closest still. I don't know. Just Yannick looks like a pretty much sure thing to the quarters. But there is a certain who did Fils lose to last year at the US Open was Arnaldi in the second round in a fifth setter, which I think Elena loved. So she's here in the chat. She's probably gonna give you some comment on that. But yeah, Arnaldi Fils 5 sets. And also there was another fifth setter last year at the US Open, which Ghosty enjoyed so much. And I thought of him today because I was, basically for work, I had to count how many comebacks from 2 sets to love down Grigor Dimitrov has had in his entire career. And I think he's only had like 2 or 3, and it's all very recent. And one of them was against Alex Molchan at the US Open last year. Remember that, Ghosty? Fantastic match. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about the potential quarter for Yannick Sinner, though. And I think this gets a little more exciting. Like, I know 11th seed Stefanos Tsitsipas maybe doesn't get you going. I actually will want to know if you think that Thanasi Kokkinakis can defeat him already. But someone like Felix, or especially Daniel Medvedev, after what he did to Yannick at Wimbledon, like that would be a match where we might get some issues.
Yeah, I'm looking at potentially Medvedev in the quarters for the biggest hurdle for Yannick so far, just because like that head-to-head, that matchup is just forever really interesting. It's like for one match that they played in Miami, which just remains an anomaly. But in this section, it is still more intriguing. Like, you can't just say Medvedev is going to get to the quarters completely, without any tests along the way. Like, he still has to beat, Medvedev Morozhan already is like such a good popcorn match in that section, along with Tsitsipas Kokkinakis. Yeah, I do think that Kokkinakis is a threat for Tsitsipas already. Like, Kokkinakis actually has been playing really well all summer, even though it hasn't maybe translated on the court. Like, he had match points against Korda. He played a really tight match against Hurkacz. Like, he's been playing top players pretty tight, like, all summer, but he just hasn't been getting the win. So I kind of think, 3 out of 5. He already didn't he beat Felix at Wimbledon from 2 sets down or something? Or
but
like
that was, I mean, Felix just gave it to him, to be honest.
A little bit of luck there, but I think he ended up coming back and winning after saving match points. But yeah, usually Kokkinakis first round is like he always gets himself into an epic. And honestly, like, with the way he already played Steph really tough the first time they played in Australia, 2021, that was already a 5-setter, and that was like Kokkinakis wasn't even in the top 200 at that point. And Tsitsipas was, like, that was a good version of Steph. So yeah, that's already kind of an upset alert for me. If I had to pick, though, I would still pick Tsitsipas, but like, it wouldn't shock me at all if he lost that.
I picked Thanasi in my bracket. I think it's very doable. Got the tools. I have this little theory. As well, that Thanasi, after he played Cincinnati, where he kind of said that, well, I mean, I'm playing such tough guys in the qualifying, I have to raise my ranking. He kind of set his mindset a little bit better. He's going to be like, maybe more focused every week now. I know this is a stretch, but, we've never really seen that. Like, the guy still has a career high of like 65, which is a joke for him, really. So I don't know. Maybe finally he's going to start turning up every single tournament. I don't know. I think it's possible. And also, Sean, we have not had that yet, as by the Australian Open, Yannick was not yet the top seed. And by Roland Garros and Wimbledon, we had... we had that at Roland Garros. No. what am I talking about? Who was
Sorry,
seeded
what
top
matchup?
at Roland Garros?
What are you talking about?
Who was seeded first at Roland Garros?
Oh, it was Djokovic.
Djokovic, right?
And
Yeah, so we
Djokovic
haven't
was
had
one, Sinner two. Sinner two,
So
Alcaraz three.
we haven't had that yet, Sean. No, we haven't had a major with Sinner and Alcaraz as first and second seed. That was the question, basically. Yeah.
Okay, no, we haven't done that.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Tanasi has a real shot. Medvedev, if he gets the quarters, that's the guy who can potentially beat Sinner. That's the guy who kind of, when we don't expect him, comes out and just, I don't know, does it from time to time. 2023 US Open, 2024 Wimbledon. He's pulled off these wins before, never to be underestimated. He probably can't get 2 or 3 wins like this in a row, but he can definitely get one. So I would love to see that much. Obviously, Marozsan or Medvedev in the second round, that is a bit of a problem, but still, I would say that Daniil is the favorite over both of them right now pretty handily, despite his opening round losses in Cincinnati and Montreal. I don't think Medvedev would be as good here as it was in Rome. So yeah, maybe I'm looking at like Felix to beat Medvedev. Felix just could have another one of these solid runs.
I'm looking at one more person, and I think that this might surprise you.
Kaboli?
Maybe it wouldn't, but I'm looking at Kaboli. I'm just really high on him. Like what I've seen this summer, and he has so many tools, and he's so tactically agile, and he's like I feel like he can adjust really well to playing Medvedev pretty quickly. I would love to see that because I think Kaboli can get to the third round, and I do think he can cause Medvedev problems.
I like that. I think that Kaboli Medvedev would also be amazing in the third round. I think Felix might have a similar run to like his previous ones where, okay, let's say he beats Menchik right away because Menchik has been struggling and like kind of hasn't really come back to his best form. And then Felix just capitalizes on the draw he has. Kind of like a Roland Garros, for example. He gets to that fourth round and then he fails to the first like top quality opponent. But Kaboli, Medvedev, yeah, that's one that could actually turn out to be a very good match. I think Flavio is still kind of erratic with how offensive he is at the moment, but obviously 3 top 20 wins in the last 3 events that he's played. He's been really on fire, and the jump he's made on hard courts this year is just out of this world, really. I mean, if I remember a match that I watched in Dandere at the end of last year when he lost to Marterer in the semis, 6-6 love. Like it's just a completely different person off clay. And that's kind of it for the first quarter, I think. Let's talk about Carlos Alcaraz now, who is facing Litu in the first round. I mean, that's obviously not really a problem. Alcaraz Shapovalov, though, but then we might actually get some action. I mean, we might get Alcaraz against Draper or even Zhang. Very explosive players, obviously. And also the fourth round, Tabilo and especially Korda, the Washington champion. I know that Ghosty will be delighted to hear us talking about Sebastian Korda. But, I mean, he deserves to be mentioned here. I know he's failed at a few slams. I know he has a sort of a poor draw. He hasn't really done anything in New York either. But yeah, he's one of these guys who we could probably think of as like players who can at least push Carlos Alcaraz.
Yep. For the fourth round, Tabilo or Korda. Zhizhen Zhang Draper first round is like has 5 sets written all over it for me. I think that could definitely inform how like what sort of threat Carlos will get in the third round, because I do think Draper is probably going to give Carlos a harder time than Zhang, but I don't know if Draper gets through Zhang in the first round. And then regarding Korda, like this is the one major where he hasn't made like the third round yet, and he always kind of seems to not play his best here. Like I've seen him play well in the lead ups at DC. Okay, he won DC this year. He made the semis as well the next week. I don't want to get too high on him because I've just been burned so many times, especially Wimbledon the last 2 years. And I just I don't know if he can. I just see like he could get into some problems right away against Mute. I feel like Mahach could also be tricky, and then Tabilo could also be tricky after that, unless Chorich somehow just like gets on fire, which I don't see. Same with Gofan. Manarino hasn't been in form like since the Australian Open, so I don't think he's really going to be that much of a factor. So honestly,
I mean, Matthew
maybe
Draper
it's Dino
struggles in the
before
heat and humidity, but last year he made the 4th round. 2 years ago, he made the 3rd round. Like, New York is actually his best slam.
for Draper, yeah. It has.
But yeah, gotta remember that Jack, like with the way he played in Cincinnati, it's a great run, but he also could have lost to Munar in the opening round. So then the outlook on his warm-up is very different. So yeah, I'm not really sure what to expect from him. I think the odds on him against Zhang are comical. Like, why the hell Zhizhen Zhang would be so disrespected is kind of beyond me. He did fire Wayne Ferreira, and he's just going to be staying with that only, you know, the
James
original coach.
What
was his name? Yeah,
James Trotman.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, he didn't want 2 voices. I'm surprised that he didn't keep him a little bit longer, but I don't know. I don't know what the reasons are for that. Because he did also just win Stuttgart and beat Carlos the next week, and he, you know, I thought it would last a little bit longer, but.
And apparently Wayne was also like forcing him to play a bit more aggressively, which seemed to be doing the trick.
Yeah.
Are there any concerns regarding the Carlos Alcaraz form at all? I mean, he did just play Cincinnati, and he lost that much of his life, worst match of his life by his, you know, by what he said. Different courts here at the US Open, but is there any danger that, you know, the warm-up didn't go well, and then for some reason he can't get going in the opening rounds in New York?
For me, not so much. I think you can just chalk it up to really windy day, really fast conditions, kind of a weird match as well with the rain delay and coming back the next day. He already had the kind of meltdown already, you know, from that match, and then like now he sort of just had 2 weeks, so he was able to, you know, get like just kind of reset, move away from that. You know, I think the Olympic gold loss did definitely hurt. There's no question about that. That probably lingered in his mind. It maybe still does. But I just really back his ability in best of 5, and I just can't forget that he came into Roland Garros with like barely any warm up. You know, he only played 2 matches in Madrid with an injured arm, basically 3, I guess, and like, you know, he's just he found a way to elevate in the best of 5 set format. So I don't see why the same thing can't really happen again in conditions that are not like Cincinnati at all. You know, like pretty medium. So I am still backing Carlos to get through the first week unscathed.
Yeah, I mean, he did almost lose to Tiafoe at the US Open, but he should have, at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
But he should have a bit more time to react here than Cincinnati. In many ways, the best of 5 format, the court's suiting him a bit more. I am also pretty confident that he will make it deep. Honestly, all 4 top favorites, I mean, they kind of just make you think they should make the quarters. So perhaps in some sections of this draw, we won't be saying anything extraordinary. Perhaps in some sections of this draw, we won't be giving you any amazing predictions. But whoever will face Carlos Alcaraz in the quarters, like, that's actually a section where some stuff can happen. I mean, we've got Alex de Minaur, who hasn't played a singles match since Wimbledon. We've got Mr. Hubert Hurkacz, who also, was in danger of pretty much the same situation, or maybe even staying off the courts for longer. And he retired in his last match in Cincinnati. And also we've got some other like pretty volatile seeds. You know, we've got Khachanov, who is having a pretty poor season. You've got Arnaldi, who can hit himself off the court against any decent defender, even if he also plays matches where he's playing at like top 10 quality. So yeah, this is pandemonium. This is like, I have no idea. Personally, I think Matteo Arnaldi for the win.
Yeah, I immediately went with Matteo Arnaldi because when I looked at the seeds, I have no idea where de Minaur is at. And de Minaur is not a guy who can just like serve his way and win matches. Like, he really needs his movement. So, and then Hurkacz, I don't know. I feel like Jordan Thompson in the second round is already pretty tricky for Hurkacz. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up like in a 5-set match, kind of 50-50 there, and it doesn't go his way. So even if Hurkacz does get there, I don't know if I'd really back him like to play 4 or 5, to play 2 or 3 5-setters in a row. also where he's at physically. But I also know Hurkacz has been pretty upset proof for most of the year. Like he's normally been beating players outside the top 50 pretty regularly. Yeah, I think I'd go with Arnaldi, honestly. Khachanov and Evans is a really good match because it's like kind of like they're both at desperate points in their careers. I mean, and more so Evans than Khachanov, but Khachanov has not been in form for like 4 months straight, and then Evans is playing the Olympics. Instead of trying to defend his DC title, he's basically like kind of on the verge of like I think you were saying that you think he's gonna retire soon, right? But a matchup like against Khachanov where he actually matches up really well, who he actually matches up pretty well against, with all the variety and court craft that he has to just disrupt Karen's rhythm. I think stylistically that contrast will make it an interesting one, and it feels kind of 50-50 who's going to win that.
Yeah, I mean that's the last chance maybe for Dan to really avoid the grind and avoid having to go through it all over again. I don't know. Maybe he stays in doubles. Maybe he's just gonna sign up for challengers after the U.S. Open and just surprise us. But for now, we don't know that. We don't have these entry lists yet. And yeah, Arnaldi, I think, has a fine shot. Svajda kind of player who doesn't really suit him, I think, stylistically, but still there's a quality gap. He would probably fare pretty well against someone like Safiullin. If the minor loses in that top section of this bracket, like literally anything can happen. Someone like Virtanen or Alice making the fourth round or even the quarters would be very much possible. Their own first round match is so close. It's a 50-50 to me. And yeah, Hubert Hurkacz, we have to see. I mean, will he make the third round at the US Open finally?
Yeah, we'll have to see. But maybe. I mean, if he wasn't injured, I'd probably pick him. But
Thompson in the second round. Maybe
Thompson.
another time Hubert Hurkacz will lose in the second round. He's like 5-6 at the US Open or something like that. I think he's made the second round 5 times by now and always lost. So.
But if Divinor is healthy and he comes out and plays a great match against Giron, then I'm probably end up picking him. But right now I'm going to go with Arnaldi because we don't really know where Divin is at.
Yeah, this is kind of all based on the assumption that Alex will not be great. He played at the Olympics in doubles, so that kind of suggests that, well, about a month ago, he was like almost ready to play. We'll see. I am treating this as a positive sign that he appeared there. I know he didn't like exactly do all that well. He wasn't expected to, but I am treating it as a positive sign that he was able to show up at the Olympics, at least not in singles, but just in doubles. That probably he's going to be fine, but it makes him more vulnerable than usual for sure. If he isn't vulnerable though, then it's maybe even Alex's section rather than Alex's section rather than Hubert's section, I think. All things considered, like this could be like a very easy quarterfinal run for Alex if he's just ready. And we'll have to see about that. And in the third quarter, we have this is, as a whole, this is the quarter of Alexander Zverev. I love this comment from Brenda earlier about being almost pregnant. Maybe that can happen in the case of a late pullout. And the only late pullout that we've had so far at the US Open was Emil Ruusuvuori, who pulled out of the match against Alexander Zverev, and Maximilian Marterer is going to be playing him. So, is this of big help? The draw was looking pretty good for Zverev already. And now that he kind of eliminated that threat, or at least that threat was eliminated for him, it's looking even better. Like he's kind of not at the same level to me in terms of the chances to win the title as the top 3 guys, mostly because he doesn't really match up that well against them. But in terms of his chances to go deep, he seems just as solid as Sinner, Alcaraz, Djokovic.
Yeah, he's been pretty reliable in the majors this year. I think he probably would have been further at Wimbledon if he hadn't gotten injured, to be honest. So I don't see any threats for him until, I don't know, maybe a peaking Runa in the 4th round. But Runa has so much work to do to get there. I mean, right away he's playing Brandon Nakashima, who's had 3 top 20 wins this summer, of course, which has been great to see. Let's go, and now he plays Runa, tomorrow, and I think Brandon has got a shot. Like, I do think it's going to be a 4 or 5 setter. I'm not going to pick him to win because I just think Runa also found a lot of momentum in Cincinnati. He was one net court away from getting to the final, and we would have had a really good final, I think, if he had made it. He's beaten Sinner before. He plays him really well, so I could see. But then Runa, like, it doesn't get any easier for him because then to have to play, I mean, maybe PCB second round, and then Musetti, who's been playing pretty good, even if he lost quite comfortably to Tiafoe in Cincinnati. But Tiafoe did make the final and was playing really well. So I think if we get Zverev Runa, I'll be interested to see that again, especially after Roland Garros, where Runa was like a tiebreak away from winning that match, but then Zverev won the 5th pretty comfortably. I still can't really pick anyone other than Zverev though to get through here.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still kind of lost with that whole thing I said. But anyway, Holger Rune, I think, is one of the losers of this draw. Like, just Nakashima, Carreno Busta, Opelka or Musetti, pretty much a dangerous opponent every single round. I don't know if it like completely, stops him from potentially having a run, but the chance that he will even get to that 4th round with Zverev is definitely diminished, which also helps the German, obviously. And I'm really unsure of his chances here. If he's lost both matches with Brandon previously, maybe he's going to do a bit better here. Maybe he just has a bit more time to react because, again, it's the longer format. But just doesn't feel obvious. And we ended that Cincinnati event for Rune on a very positive note, but then just that little sour taste, how he wasn't ready to get to the final, how he basically gave it away, even despite the net courts against Tiafoe, how in the tiebreak it was just Frances just forcing him to play, keeping the ball inside the court. And just seeing Rune crack like this, it wasn't amazing. And the fact that he doesn't have to make the 4th round, of course, is even better for Zverev. But how about that top half of this one? I mean, we've got Taylor Fritz, we've got Casper Ruud as the highest seeds. I think that's kind of what I'm looking at mostly, especially that Ruud section seems very volatile. He was he was sick in Montreal, Cincinnati, and he did lose to a Chinese player last year at the US Open, Zhizhen Zhang. Yeah. I don't think Buyun Chowkete will beat him. Like, it's not the same level of explosiveness, but this might very well be the 2nd, 3rd most dangerous qualifier as well. So it's still a matchup that excites me for sure. And Fritz, if he gets through Berrettini, it's like kind of the same story as with Sinner at Wimbledon, where we were saying that like he gets through Berrettini, he goes deep. And with Fritz, I think it's pretty much the same here. Of course, keeping in mind that it's Matteo on hard courts, not on grass, but at the same time, Taylor isn't Yannick.
Yeah, I think I ended up choosing Taylor because I think over 3 out of 5, the Matteo match will probably tell us everything that we need to know about if Fritz is ready to make the quarters again. At the same time, Casper was playing really well on hard courts at the start of the year, 19-6, but just the health concerns, being in bed for 5 days, not really having that kind of rep since the Olympics. That is a kind of a pause for concern. I mean, maybe even Monfils in the 2nd round can take out Casper if Casper is.
He almost beat him in Indian Wells, right?
Yep, very nearly did. And then even you got some other players like Jerry Shang, Bublik. I don't know. It's not going to be easy for Casper to get to that 4th round. And for Fritz as well, I mean, after Matteo, like, maybe Humbert, but Humbert kind of struggles at the US Open. Like, never really done well here. Doesn't like the conditions. So, I think if Fritz gets through Berrettini, which he has a pretty good head-to-head against Matteo, if memory serves, he tends to win a lot of those tie breaks, and he likes, particularly he's able to get it to Matteo's backhand in baseline rallies. I'd still probably pick Fritz to get to the quarters again. He's been pretty consistent in slams since last year's US Open.
I think that's what I did as well. I think I did go with Fritz eventually. I have a lot of respect for Matteo in general, hard courts as well, but Yeah, he's not quite as deadly here as at Wimbledon. So I think Taylor will be a slight favorite there. And yeah, after that, it's kind of a bit of a free ride for him, even maybe if we assume that Humbert is not going to be at the top of his game. Because otherwise, like, I don't think Ruud or Bublik should be an issue for him. Like, Bublik, of course, has to get there first. And just winning a few matches at slams has been pretty tough for the Kazakhs. So yeah, I really like Taylor's chances here as well. And in the bottom, fourth quarter, we've got, of course, Novak Djokovic.
I will say, though, in that section, I would love to see Casper versus Fritz again. They played at Roland Garros, but if Casper is healthy, then I think he actually has a shot at beating Fritz. But I just don't know if Casper will get there.
I'd rather see something unexpected. Give me a Fritz Chang or give me a Fritz Monfils even. Yeah, that would be. I like that. I like that. Otherwise, I don't know if Taylor really could struggle against someone from this section, because of course we could go more unexpected. Like we could go Jan Choinski against Taylor Fritz in the fourth round, but I wouldn't want to watch that really. Or Taylor Fritz against Diego Schwartzman again. I mean, last year Diego beat him, I guess. But yeah, I'm not buying into this. And Novak Djokovic, I think he kind of got a section where if he's fully motivated, if he's ready, he's probably going to rip through it. Last year, it's worth remembering that he was 2-0 down against Laszlo Djere in the third round. That was very unexpected. Djere didn't really do all that much to produce that lead, and then didn't really have that much to do either when he was trying to close out. But it is a bit of a question, like if Novak falls into a situation like this, will he again have the fire and the hunger to get out of it like he did last year? Or will he have a bit of a, post-Olympic, I've won the Olympics, I've completed tennis. I don't know. It's happened to Novak before, that 2016 query loss, for example, at Wimbledon, where the second set, he pretty much gets just rolled over and there's no reaction really from him. So I think it's possible, but still, of course, I like his chances to go deep, unless like a peak performance from Ben Shelton or Francis Tiafoe happens.
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of really looking at, third round against Popyrin. They've played two similar-ish matches, Australian Open being more scary for Novak than Wimbledon. So I'm kind of looking at that as being like the first real big test. I don't really see Radu Albot or Jan Lennart Struff because I don't think Djere is playing at the same level anywhere near where he was last year at this point in time. So I see Novak getting pretty comfortably to the third round, and then after that it'll be interesting against Popyrin. And then fourth round, potentially I'm looking at Tiafoe this year as opposed more to Shelton to getting there. But I would love to see Shelton and Tiafoe again after everything that went down last year and kind of changed the arc of their careers. So those are kind of, I think if Tiafoe can get there in the fourth round and it's a night match on Ash, I could see Tiafoe really pushing Djokovic and making it a really big contest and getting the crowd involved. And then the question is, does Djokovic have it in him to really fight back? Maybe I'm just basing it also on Tiafoe's consistency at the US Open, because since basically 2020, he's made the fourth round every single year, including quarters last year when he wasn't playing that great, and semis 2 years ago pushing Alcaraz to 5. So I think Tiafoe is pretty reliable at Flushing Meadows.
Yeah, two things I'm laughing about. Basically, John says that Matthew is commentating on Djokovic Albot, and he did earlier ask me if I wanted to do it, and I just replied lol, because I don't know why I would want to watch that match, especially at 4 a.m. in the morning. Like it's not going to be a match, definitely not. Also, I don't even remember what the second thing was. Oh yeah, that stat that Tiafoe has made it past the hasn't lost before the fourth round at the US Open like the last 4 years. Someone presented it to me this week as like kind of one of the sort of
5
main
years, right?
5 years even,
4 years.
One of the main American storylines regarding this US Open. And I also kind of just laughed because, I mean, if we're talking about the Americans, potentially ending the title drought and stuff, it's not a particularly impressive stat, but in terms of like where Francis is as a player, I think it is impressive, and it is something that we have to look at in terms of potentially getting there. I don't think Tiafoe and Djokovic have actually played all that much, right? Didn't they play in like Laver Cup or something like that. Or-
Yeah, so like just once on the main tour with points, like the Australian Open 3 years
Oh
ago.
yeah, that was a long time ago though, right? 2021 maybe.
Yeah, that was before the Fritz injury. I mean, that was before the abdominal injury.
Second round before the abdominal injury. Okay,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was actually a pretty good match, and also
was.
Laver Cup, 2022. So let's just agree that Laver Cup matches are not to be included in our
And
conversation.
we don't expect to see Dominic Thiem push Ben Shelton, do we, in the first round?
Nah,
As much as I
we're not.
would, like to see Dominic get a really good farewell and play a really awesome match. I think the gap is probably too big at this point, and Shelton probably wins that in straights, maybe even. But I would like to see, Thiem really push him and play, have that really big moment that he deserves. Former champion.
It's not looking like he will. Maybe sometimes, that brings up that last dance energy. But yeah, I'm not a believer in that one. No, I'm not. And also, who is going to face Djokovic in the quarters? So I'm looking at this and I'm kind of thinking, again, this is pretty open. I don't even think that anyone who does is going to be like very dangerous to Novak. If memory serves right, I actually maybe picked Ijila Hechka to get to the quarters here.
I did too, because I talked my way into thinking he'll beat Rublev in the third round. And I love the way he played in Cincinnati overall, even though he hadn't played in like 3 or 4 months. He's made a hardcore major quarterfinal already at the Australian Open. I mean, why not, right? He could definitely do it here. Dimitrov could also be the guy, but I have a few more questions about Dimitrov now than I did like the first half of the year, where it seemed like I think some of the momentum got killed for him with the Wimbledon.
I mean, he lost early in like two events, but it was to Popyrin and Marozsan.
Yeah, I think
and he had
still get
big chances to win against Alexei. So
yeah.
But I agree also with you, Gene, that Lehechka having Fucsovics in the opening round is not ideal at all. Yeah. But I really like his chances after he gets through that. And yeah, that Cincinnati run was a bit of a marvel. Dimitrov should totally make the third round here. I mean, the fourth round. Maybe Davidovich.
This is not a good draw for Rublev, right? I mean, like every round is tough for him. Because like already
Rinderknech is tough.
Okay, maybe. But like Rinderknech, I don't know.
Seibovic as well. Like if you're a number 6 seed, you should like these first 2 rounds, I think. Lehechka, sure. Lehechka is one of the toughest 25-32 guys. But I think if you're a top 8 seed, you should like these 2 rounds. Okay, Thiago Seibovic is a bit more dangerous than some. Like, okay, you want to get Kirion Jockey instead, for example, like Grigor got. But then again, if you can get Davidovich Fokina in the second round, then I would actually still take Seibovic round 1, Eubanks Rinderknech. I think it's it's a pretty reasonable draw for Rublev.
Yeah, and the third round I think is where we probably have the most concerns.
How far can Mattia Bellucci go, Brazy? Third round. I mean, third round is out there for him. He's a big favorite for the bookies against Stan. Actually, the odds on Mattia are getting pretty crazy now, honestly. But I mean, yeah, it's not without a reason. And then you have Jari or O'Connell, and I think he'd be favorite in either match as well. So third round, and then he plays Sinner and loses to him very likely. But I think if he makes the third round, it's gonna be all fine, and it's gonna be kind of the round that he is expecting himself. Let's also chat about sort of like random full tournament predictions. Like you obviously said that Sinner is your likely quarterfinalist at the top. Then I think you mentioned that probably Medvedev, despite really loving Koboli's third round match with him. So if Sinner and Medvedev do face in the quarterfinals, and of course this is just kind of light because we don't know how they're going to look in the opening week. But would you think that Daniil has a good shot? Who would be your winner in that one?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I do think at times Yannick was playing really well in that Wimbledon match, but he just kind of at times was a little bit too predictable, or he was missing a bit too much off the ground, and also he was struggling physically. So if, let's say, he's in better shape and he gets to the quarterfinals without too many problems, I'd still probably pick him, just because he has, like, for the most part, turned that rivalry around. So I will probably say Sinner, but I'm not super confident, just because of I can't underestimate Medvedev's quality in hardcourt slams and hardcourts in general. I think you can overreact to 2 early round losses from Medvedev in Cincy and Canada, but I think it might be too early for anybody to think like, oh, Medvedev is not really gonna be a factor anymore, and he's having a terrible year, which is not really the case. He's still the 5th best player. So I think Medvedev is going to push him, but I'm going to go with Sinner.
Yeah, I actually have to check, honestly, who I picked, because I don't remember. But I think we are sort of, I think you guys can already tell what's happening. Like, Vansh is just going to go with the top 4 seeds, basically. And he is going to tell us that this is bold. And apparently I also went with Yannick Sinner now. Okay. Apparently I also went with Yannick Sinner. So yeah, sure. Apparently it's Yannick. But as you can see, I had to check it. So at least it means that I had to think about it. But I went with Yannick Sinner to the semis. And did you also go Carlos Alcaraz over, like, whoever? Was Matteo Arnaldi your quarterfinal pick in the end?
Yeah, I did. But I reserved the right to wait for Divinor to play his match first. But yes, pre first day, I'm going with Matteo Arnaldi.
Yeah, but then still, like, Carlos would be the favorite.
Carlos is gonna be
right? Like, it just changes the quarterfinal pick, but it doesn't change the semifinal one. Yeah. And in the third one, I think what did we have here? I think you had Fritz and Zverev, right? And I did the same pretty much. Any chances for Taylor to make this a Grand Slam semi?
I mean, he'll have.
That would be the first one, right? He still hasn't gotten it, right?
Yeah, he hasn't gotten it yet.
Yeah, because of the Musetti loss at Wimbledon.
Yeah, that was a huge opportunity missed. I still have to go with Zverev.
I did the same. Although Taylor did beat him at Wimbledon from 2 sets to love down, but was that a bit of the injury stuff? Probably, right?
I don't think Zverev was 100% in that match. You could see towards the end, especially, movement wasn't the same. And then Novak, yeah. So that's their top 4.
Oh, and actually, according to my bracket prediction, I picked Izzy Lehechka to make the semis.
You did? Yeah, I don't see that.
I was not expecting that because I was thinking if I didn't want to go top 4 seeds in the semis, then I probably picked Medvedev over Sinner, and apparently not. I just picked Lehechka. I don't know what to tell you guys. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I was just like, picking it with my finger, and
that is really bold. That is really bold.
Maybe my finger slipped. I literally do not remember this, and I wasn't doing this drunk this time. No, I actually wasn't. So yeah, I'm gonna just stick it. I'm gonna stick with it. I don't care.
Might as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stick with it. Let's say Izzy Lehechka is my semifinalist. So obviously, bold Vansh went for top 4 seeds. And which of the top 4 seeds do you envision having the opportunity to make the final here in your Sinner, Alcaraz, Zverev, Djokovic matchups?
Sinner, Alcaraz. I mean, I still think best of 5 just tips the advantage a little bit more towards Alcaraz. Just because then we have that question of, is Yannick ready physically to get over the 5-set demons, plus everything else going on surrounding him, plus how physical the Medvedev match is, I think is also going to be important. I mean, it really could go either way, but I'll go like Alcaraz 51-49.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably say something like that as well. I don't know. I remember saying at Roland Garros, if they play in the semis, it's probably Carlos 51-49. At Wimbledon, it's probably Yannick 51-49. Here, it's even closer. Let's call it a 50.5 to 49.5 Carlos or something like that. I really don't know. Honestly, I thought I remembered picking Medvedev, and then I would definitely pick Carlos for the final. With this, I don't know. But in my bracket on my phone, it's Carlos who's in the final. And bottom, I mean, you had Zverev Djokovic, and I had Zverev Lehechka. So I think it's obvious that for me, Lehechka was not the pick this time. And I just went to
come on, you could
Alcaraz
go for
Zverev
the
final.
Lehechka again. You could go for an Alcaraz Lehechka final.
I didn't. I still went for another Alcaraz Zverev, just like at the French.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised by this. I mean, I'm not surprised that I had Zverev in the final. Like, I think, okay, that's okay. But that is mostly based on the fact that I had Djokovic losing earlier. Like, if Djokovic plays Zverev, I would have to see how they look throughout the fortnight, honestly. I wouldn't be able to make that prediction for now, to be honest.
Yeah, I would
Honestly,
too.
Dave, every single port sucks. The one we had in Porto, it was just so sweet. It was not even that good. I had to like use water as a chaser. Nah. It's not my type of alcohol, you know. If I opened up my fridge right now, which is behind me, you would see what sort of alcohol I like. Although I haven't drunk anything since Porto, so it's almost a month now, I think. But anyway, yeah, Vansh, you were saying.
Yeah, you would have to see how they look, but I don't know. I mean, Zverev, end of a major, finish line nerves versus Djokovic, who's done it a million times. I'm still gonna go with Djokovic.
So Djokovic, Alcaraz, Wimbledon, Olympics, US Open. Vansh is going bold again. He's out of his mind.
Crazy.
Watch him go.
I think that's how the men's game is right now. You know, like it's not as interesting.
There's a
after
big gap between the top four and the rest. There is, and
that's what it feels like.
We might actually see that. Yeah, we might actually see the bold Vanch prediction here and on the ATP side.
To be clear, the one thing that was bold is that I was saying it on both the men's and the women's side. So I was trying to go like 4 and 4, and that is pretty bold, I would think. You know. Or we didn't get it on either, so
it's only the least bold outcome of anything, but yes. Alcaraz, Sinner, Zverev, and Lehechka, yeah, absolutely. Alcaraz, Sinner, Zverev, and Lehechka. All right, so anything else to add, really? I mean, clearly I am insane. Clearly I picked Iji Lehechka. Maybe I was just like running out of time, you know? I remember I was doing this lying in bed, and maybe it was just like, oh shoot, I have to do something, and I just tapped some random buttons at the end. I'm surprised about that, but I don't know. Well, Joao, I don't know. Iji Lehechka in the quarters, is that light work for Novak? Yeah, I don't know. I am a maniac. And Vansh is also a maniac for the bold predictions he always makes. But yeah, that's basically what we said. You know, the top 4 seeds, anyone out of them. Did you guys realize that Gil and Andy have failed to correctly predict any of the slams this year? Who's Andy?
Who is Andy? Yeah.
But I mean, so what? We had Sinner in Australia. I guess they thought it was a bit early. Alcaraz at the French, you know, he was coming off after the injury. Wimbledon, Alcaraz, if they picked Sinner, I wouldn't blame them. Oh, it's Andy Roddick? Okay.
Andy Roddick.
Really wish Joao Fonseca was in the main draw, Brazy.
Yes.
No problem. We just need 7 more withdrawals. We just need a plague, basically, and Joao Fonseca will be in the main draw. And he has to avoid that plague as well. So, well, someone who is going to be avoiding him like a plague is basically the entire tour soon, but not quite yet. Confident that Medvedev reaches quarters, even though he is 0-2 in the US summer. Joao is asking, we are not confident, but we think is the main favorite still. The 0-2 we have to remember is to like very talented players on a good day. I don't think it's
really,
as
really high
scary.
ceilings from really high ceiling players like Lehechka and Davidovich Fokina, but also really low floors.
Does anyone really care if tennis pundits get predictions right? Doesn't really mean anything. Thankfully, no one cares. And some of the predictions we make and other people make, I mean, we know that we are destined for failure. And we are fine with it, It's fun. We do it. It's a good way to actually sort of help analyze the draw as well. But yeah, I mean, personally, I think that people who boast about their predictions are I don't know, just don't do it. Like I make predictions. If they're right, I don't come back to them. If they're wrong, I also don't come back to them. I think it's it allows me to live easier and just kind of forget about everything. Yeah, it's just for fun. Exactly. If I'm right, I'm not going to be boasting about it because I know there are so many different things that sort of go into whether it goes right for you or not. I think at the French, I had maybe like one of my best ever slam predictions or something like that in the men's draw. But I mean, you're not going to see me tweeting about it or anything. And definitely you're not going to see me.
I would say take some swings,
predictions.
Take swings with it. Pick players that are not... that you don't think majority of people will, and then just go with it. Like
Exactly.
The semis.
Lehechka, Matteo Arnaldi. And then when it works, you're like, okay, when that works out, by the way, when you pick someone like Iji Lehechka to make the semis, you can tweet about it. Yes, definitely. Go tweet about it. If Matteo Arnaldi makes the semis and you picked him, go ahead. But if you're like, thankfully I landed my Djokovic Zverev semifinal, then yeah, just shut up. Everyone did. And that's all I'm going to say.
You picked Krejcikova to win Wimbledon.
Okay, yeah. You can be proud of that. You can be proud of that, yeah. Vansh, did you see my question, says Brenda? What was the question? Oh, have you picked Carlos for any of the slams this year? I think you have, right?
I did. I think both
really.
Both Roland Garros and Wimbledon, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not the Australian Open. I didn't go there.
I don't remember the Australian Open. I don't know who I picked. Maybe it was just
Novak. Yeah, I think I picked Novak as well.
But I think I also did for both Roland Garros at Wimbledon. So, well, he's been proving us right. But, well, maybe we are also biased because of doing the podcast.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't.
We are to a little extent, but yeah. I think at Wimbledon, I was actually very realistic about Carlos's chances. And I was saying that if Sinner goes through Berrettini and like Medvedev and, a couple of tests, then he might actually beat him. But of course, we didn't get that much. And I still picked Carlos. And at Roland Garros, I think that's maybe where he kind of proved us right a bit more even. But
also, it's pretty hard to do. It's pretty hard to win the last 3 slams in a row. Like the last guy to do it was Nadal in 2010.
3 players only in the Open era.
Yeah.
I mean 2, sorry. Carlos is trying to be the third, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Keen saying that paddle is so much more fun than pickleball and a nice change up to tennis. I don't know if I can face Zverev winning a slam, says Sean. Well, in all honesty, if he has to go through at least 2 of the other favorites, you probably won't have to. And Brenda says she picks Carlos for everything, which I think I've been doing over the summer. But yeah, I don't think it's biased really. Like, yeah, that's kind of where we are right now. But I'm not going to be picking him in the indoor swing, I can already tell you. That's probably not it. Also, apparently, I will have to show some tattoos. So where are we with the 10K count, actually? I don't know. But I said we are not going to get it by the end of the US Open. Prove me wrong. And yes, Keen, GMP, a slam contender tomorrow, Australian Open. Okay. 437 in the last 28 days. Ooh, then I guess we add 200 in the next 14. It's not looking too good for me, given that the next 14 will be pretty busy on the channel. But you want to prove me wrong on this prediction, actually. This is the one prediction we care about here on Talking Tennis. And yeah, Vansh, anything else?
No, just make sure to subscribe and hit 10K to prove Damien wrong.
You mother. Yeah, I'm not really gonna care actually. I'm gonna care. I'm actually gonna be happy if we hit 10K. But yeah. Is Ben Stiller going to appear in Alcaraz's box now that Rafa is
Well, I have a bigger question. Is he going to appear in Diego Schwartzman's box? Because this is Diego Schwartzman's last, potentially, maybe second to last match in a major.
What's the connection between Ben Stiller and Diego?
I thought they were friends. Like they had I think they were tweeting at each other, right? The other day. So
would you rather have Matthew McConaughey or Ben Stiller in your box?
Probably Ben Stiller, just because he's been, around the block with, he's just been more publicly visible at tennis events, and I don't know, maybe also the Ben Stiller movies are great, but I don't know, they're both pretty cool.
As an actor, I think I like Matthew McConaughey more, but I don't really know them personally, obviously. John Bon Jovi should be in the Cam Nori box, by the way.
Oh yeah,
we are really going to some different things here. Could Popperin do at Tsitsipas and get his brother some more
Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift should be in Iga Swiatek's box.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, Taylor Swift, because I'm sure Taylor Swift listens to Talking Tennis.
Ghosty, good pun there. Popperin doing at Tsitsipas, I don't know, Keen. I think he has to back it up still. But to a challenger, he's already got a wild card like that. And yeah, Cam Nori, of course, isn't really at the US Open. So John Bon Jovi will have to wait for another event to be there. Oh, and
there we go. There's the tweet.
There's the Diego Schwartzman, Ben Stiller love. So yeah, maybe he will be. Actually, Diego is playing on a show court, right, with Kyle. So yeah, I think it's possible. Watch out for Ben Stiller in the Diego Schwartzman box, and watch out for our subscriber count, as well as watch out for our streams during the first 2 days of the US Open. In fact, during the first 14 days of the US Open, which are all the days of the US Open. It's going to be open or not, I don't know. We'll see. We talked about it all basically with Vanch, and we'll see you guys on some other Talking Tennis content. Willem Dafoe and Rublev. Okay, yeah, I think I've seen that somewhere. Yeah, let's not go into that rabbit hole again. Bye.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.